big town with photographs of their missing children, wanting answers, wanting to know if their children were some of the remains. There were a lot of missing children.
My child's been missing for a while. Is she back there? Yeah.
The police were a hot, unhelpful mess. First, the police denied finding children. They denied finding that number. They're like, we didn't find 17. Then they were like, oh, no, we found them and dug them up with our great detective work. The residents were like, we dug them up. You ignored us, showed up late. And then yesterday you were like, we didn't find 15. And then the police were like, no. We were just saying that we don't know how, we found some skulls and bones, but we don't know how many kids. It was just, this whole case is up and down of bad police work.
Yeah.
So the residents dug it all up. Then the police sealed the scene and they wouldn't let anyone, including media, near. Remember, the residents of the house had been arrested 3 days before. And this stood out to me because, shouldn't their house and yard and the drain, shouldn't this area have already been searched, especially in connection to a missing person? The town immediately accused the police of corruption and being involved in covering up for rich people because the man who owned this house was a super, super, super wealthy businessman. They being the public, demanded that an independent party investigate. The police kept going back and forth no, nothing's going on. Oh, and then the public would be like, yeah, but we found bodies. And police go, okay, well, we did. The police only responded when forced to by public outrage.
They're like, okay, yeah, we did find those. They're like, no, we just said we did. And they're like, yeah, we did.
Yeah, we did. We helped.
Yeah, we did that.
The media then revealed that Pandher, which is the owner of the house, the businessman, and Surrender Coley had been arrested by police already. So this is the people finding out. And that Surrender Coley had confessed to the rape of murder of Payal already. After he confessed, police told him about the other bodies, but they were really just trying to save face with the village. They were like, no, we're also going to ask him about the bodies we found on their property. Don't worry, we got you.
Yeah, it's fine. We're the police. Shut up.
Residents of Noida, the town, demanded justice, and they actually stormed the house of Pandher. All these people fucking stormed the house and were like, we want answers. Please do some shit.
Yeah.
Then on December 31st, 2 policemen were arrested in connection to the serial murders. And I'll get more into detail about all the bodies, but right now they just have a bunch of bodies and people want answers, but they're not getting answers, which is why I'm not giving you them yet. People aren't getting answers. So the public is like, hey, what's happening? And then on December 31st, 2 policemen are arrested in connection because they allegedly refused to take action and they supposedly or allegedly knew what Pandher and Coley had been doing. The public is still like, are those our kids? Are they not our kids? And the police are like, well, we arrested 2 police. And like,
okay, but
great,
is this
but
my kid?
yeah, they still don't have it. So I'm giving it to you. I know it sounds like a weird order, but I'm giving it to the order they got it.
Yeah.
This case is a total back and forth of police only acting when called out and forced by residents. It's literally just a shit show. So they have at least 17 dead children and police are like, no, we arrested people. And they're like, I don't even know if that's my kid yet. It's just this insane, terrifying thing. Then an angry group of villagers, just fucking fed up after no answers or actions, had this weird battle with police. And I kept thinking the Civil War because the police were at the house, kind of closed off. The villagers lined up and it's not funny, but it is. They threw stones at each other, the police and the villagers.
Wow.
I imagine the Civil War, they lined up with bayonets and they just took turns throwing rocks at each other.
Yeah. But really though, what do you have to do to just be like, can you please just let us know some more information about these 17 children's bodies, please?
Yeah, because that's all we know so far.
Yeah, can you please just let us know something?
Residents alleged that this house had been the spot that all their missing kids were taken and they wanted answers and justice. They wanted to know whose kids were, they still don't have any fucking answers. There were also allegations that after the girls were assaulted and killed, their organs were being sold.
Oh,
this is all over the place.
Yeah.
A doctor who lived right down the road, a couple houses down, who police actually knew about for years. He had been, everyone for years was like, this doctor is buying and selling organs on the black market. He's linked to all, the whole town kind of knew that this was going on. But police finally investigated, air quotes aren't investigated, and they're like, there's no proof. Doctor's good. On January 1st, 2007, the court said that the 2 suspects, so Pandher and Coley, that they would remain in police custody until at least January 10th, so they could have that week to investigate and try to figure out whose remains whose remains of children where they still hadn't identified them. They also granted permission for narco analysis. Oh, which I'll get into later. Do you know what that is?
No, the only thing I can think of is the TV show.
Okay, I'll get into it later.
Okay.
First, I was like, yeah, I'll get into it later. I'll talk about it more. But the police was like, you can do narco analysis. The same day, so January 1st, police raided the second home of Panter in his hometown, and they questioned his wife and son. They were like, yeah, we have a strained relationship with him, but he's a normal guy. Like, leave him alone. Then a senior police inspector stated to the media that they would dig further into Panter and his other homes, and they actually reopened child kidnapping cases in Chandigarh, which was his hometown that house was in. The next day, January 2nd, so finally, like months after they found, well, not months, I'm a liar, weeks. It was like a week.
It was like 1 week.
1 week. 15 of the 17 remains were identified. 10 of them were identified by Coley himself. So they didn't actually like do DNA right away and identify the remains. They just knew they had kids. So they showed him pictures of missing kids. And he was like, yeah, these 10 are buried. Like they're there.
Wow.
So that's how 10 of them. And then 5 others, so 15 were identified. The other 5 were identified by family members after police found like some items and clothing with the body.
Yeah.
That's how they were identified. DNA was used later, but this is how they were identified in January. 10 of the 17 were girls. 11 of them were below the age of 10.
Aww.
And all of the torsos were missing, which points to organ trade.
Yeah, I would say. At first I was like, oh my God, which is still, oh my God, but that makes sense.
All of their torsos are missing. The police said they believe that Coley killed at least 31 children and that they were only able to find 17.
Wow.
Finally, the central government began a high-level inquiry into the police lapses because, like, at least some of these kids had been missing for over 2 years, and the whole village was like, it's happening at this house. Go investigate. It's happening. And police were like, nah, fam. Nah, we're good.
Yeah.
The panel met with parents of the victims, and they gave 8 of them compensation. And from what I could tell, they gave compensation only to the families whose children had been sexually assaulted, which is like its own fucking mess.
Yeah.
7 of the families who received checks returned them and instead demanded houses and jobs as compensation.
Oh, wow.
The villagers and parents still were very outspoken about the way police handled the missing children. There's still a lot of answers missing. Like, all they've done is find the bodies unidentified. The parents want to know what happened, what's being done. Like, they're waiting on answers like all of you are right now. Like, what the fuck is happening? So the pressure didn't stop. So finally, 2 police superintendents and 6 policemen were fired. At the end, the inquiry, like the whatever who investigated, their reports accused police of gross negligence. The investigation later found. So here's all the thing. Now I'll give you some more answers.
Okay.
So so basically, like, the cops weren't saying shit. The cops were not giving people any answers. It was this like third-party investigation, like from the government. So when they ended their investigation and release, this is what the public found. There was evidence of child pornography. And I mean, like, full on international, like a child porn racket based on Pander's computers, things being shared. The kids that were boys and girls, the kids that were kidnapped were being used for child porn. There was evidence pointing to organ trade and cannibalism.
Oh, God.
So the doctor who they couldn't find evidence for, who said like he had been accused of buying and selling organs on the black market before, he was linked. Surrender Cole, who is like the most insane. So the cannibalism, the only reason they know or think that there's cannibalism is because Surrender Coley said that there was. He actually admitted everything to police. He told police his first victim was a 4-year-old girl, that they raped and killed her. And that after he killed her, he ate her liver, but it made him throw up. He said he tried to eat her liver because he heard that cannibalism cures impotency.
Oh, God. Oh, okay.
Coley also confessed to necrophilia. He said that he would lure children, boys and girls, like he'd invite them to Pander's house because he's the housekeeper. He'd invite them over, and then he'd hand them over to Pander, the businessman, who would rape them. Then Pander would turn around and give them back to Coley to rape and kill them. Coley said that sometimes he would rape them before killing them. Sometimes he would kill them and then rape them and then dismember them and put them in the tank.
Oh my gosh. So they were really in on this together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brain mapping and narco analysis was performed on the accused, so the 2 men. So we'll talk about that. So they underwent a series of medical tests. So narco analysis is when it's almost like a truth serum.
Mm-hmm.
So it's when the subject's imagination, this is what they think, the imagination is neutralized by making the subjects only semi-conscious. So it becomes more difficult for you to lie if you're only kind of halfway there. So they're injected with sodium pentothal or sodium amytal, which is so essentially it's like a truth. So they inject them with something that makes them like go in and out of it and they're half conscious. And they say that it's a lot harder to lie if you're fighting consciousness. So it's essentially known as like a truth serum kind of thing.
Interesting.
I'd never heard of that. The victims, all children except one, Payao. And like I said, Ailey is not her real name. She was a 19-year-old call girl. All of the victims were dismembered with butcher-like precision.
Oh.
Which makes me think the doctor was involved.
Yeah.
There was a pattern in all of the killings. They were all strangled after they were all killed by strangulation after being raped. And then nothing until 2009. Like it was a long. So the two men are behind bars and it's a long investigation. But on February 13th, 2009, both men are found guilty of one murder and they are convicted of death. They're not sentenced anytime soon because there's still all these investigations. So then on May 4th, 2010, Surinder Kohli is found guilty and sentenced to death a second time for the murder of a 7-year-old. On September 27th, 2010, they're found guilty of one more murder, an 8-year-old girl, but they're not sentenced to like a death date because you can't kill someone if there's other investigations. So it's almost like they're tackling one at a time.
Yeah.
It's kind of handled in a weird way. I don't know. In India, the death penalty is reserved for, quote, the rarest of the rare cases, and this qualified. Pander's wife and son challenged the verdict because they said he was out of town on some of the alleged murder dates. And the court was like, yeah, we don't give a fuck. He knew, he's still involved. Maybe he was out of town when one person was killed, but I bet he raped them before he left and he knew what was happening. So fuck you.
Yeah.
Like they both got the death penalty. But he, the businessman, so the servant, housekeeper was in jail. The businessman was released on bail.
Nice.
Surinder Kohli showed zero remorse and said he was at peace with everything coming out.
Really?
The only emotion he showed was when he was asked about his own 3-year-old daughter. When people were like, what about your daughter? He was like, fuck you. In 2019... So recently, Surinder Kohli was tried for additional murders. Like years are going by, but they're still investigating.
Wow.
So in 2019, he was like, yo, my confession was false and I'm actually innocent of all charges.
No.
I found some recent articles. So neither have been executed because they're still investigating They're both still alive. And now there's all this information floating that Pander, the businessman who owned the house, there's all these articles coming about like, maybe he's innocent. But then there's all these other articles of like, I bet he's only alive because he's fucking rich and got them a good lawyer. Like it's just, it's kind of this battle now of like, we can't believe that this rich businessman who's like a family guy did it. Or it's like, no, he fucking did it and he's only alive and not dead because he's a rich lawyer. Eventually, the death penalty was overturned and called not justified. And now they're just in prison for life.
Yeah.
So it's literally this case of where these two men were arrested for a murder. And then the townspeople were like, yo, now like we know that all of our dead children are on their I don't know. I feel like that was all over the place, but it's kind of how the case was. And the police, it's a roller coaster because the residents of the village would be like, yeah, we know this. And the police would be like, okay, I guess we'll look into it if you make us. So it's not like a normal investigation where they find bodies and then they're investigated. It's like the fucking townspeople are like, what the fuck happened? You just found the bodies of 17 children. And the police are like, but is it really 17? Maybe it's 2. We don't know. Like, let us look into it.
And the police didn't care until they cared.
Yeah.
Like, and then they were like, well, no, it's a big deal. It's like, we were trying to make this a big deal.
That's insane. They fucking just found the bodies of 17 children.
Yeah. No.
And it should be like a straightforward investigation, but it's this fucking roller coaster of where nothing happens until the townspeople are like, we want answers.
Yeah.
Sorry, I feel like that was all over the place. I'm sorry, but it was just...
It made sense.
It was hard to research because it was so all over the place.
Yeah, what a disgusting thing that those two people did.
Yeah.
Surrender and...
Well, and there's so much, like you said, it was... Well, so what I feel like, personally, and I could be wrong, I feel like I don't think rape was the main motive. I think they were kidnapping children for their organs. But I feel like these two men who got in on the organ trade, for lack of a better term, like the black market organ trade, to kidnap children and kill them were like, we might as well rape them. And then the one guy was like, I might as well eat her liver because my dick doesn't work.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It was those things were quote unquote opportunistic because the men were such bad people. who had those curiosities, which is disgusting in itself. But they're like,